Welcome to the PTA Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, John Caliger. I'm accompanied by my co-host, Nick Kelling.
Howdy.
How you doing, Nick? We have a special
Good.
guest today, my younger brother, Matthew Caligiuri. Matthew has a wealth of experience in corporate America, as well as he attended Arizona State University, a very prestigious institution of higher education. And also, I've known him my entire life. Matthew,
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
so did you guys have a good weekend? We are recording on Mondays. You guys have a good weekend?
Yeah. Met with a couple of my clients. Nothing signed up yet or anything. They're still scared about small little things. But probably in the future clients.
That is good.
Yeah, so a little bit of background on myself. I run lacrosse tournaments for True Lacrosse and US Lax events. So we had a showcase this past weekend in Bridgeview, Illinois, right next to SeatGeek Stadium. About 130 kids and then 15 teams. So went really well. Had a good time and did some good networking with college coaches.
I'm glad to hear it. Yes, Matthew definitely burns both end of the candle when it comes to those lacrosse tournaments.
Oh yeah, it's when you're working on the weekends of these tournaments, it's 20, 30 hours a weekend on top of your 9 to 5 throughout the week. So it's always fun.
Yes, I grew up. Me and Matthew both grew up working those tournaments, and they can definitely be a barn burner, especially being in the elements for that long. You always come back with sunburn, you're dehydrated, and you usually have a poor attitude when the time's done.
Always. Good thing it was Sunday and we had football to watch when we were done. So
yeah, lifting those goals. Oh my god, I hated bringing those goals in from all the field. They're so heavy.
Oh, we got it all figured out now. We can throw them on the back of golf carts, and we got the super light ones now. So it's not like what it was back in our day.
Well, back in my day, I had to carry 14 goals on my back, and they each weighed 100 pounds.
Uphill both ways.
Yeah, uphill both ways. So I want to get into the episode. We're just talking investment strategy and types of them. So we're going to cover stuff like mutual funds, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, 401ks, like just general basic accounts, just to give people more educational. And I would like to preface, like, we're not financial advisors. We are not experts or anything like that. So if you have questions, I would go to your local bank and consult with a legitimate financial advisor.
Okay. I agree.
So let's get into it. I think the first ones we just talk about, like, mutual funds. Do you guys have any, like, I know, Matthew, you have like your 401k with work. Nick, we had our 401k from our time in. So, like, what do you guys is like?
Right.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about investing? Like, what's the strategy you guys employ and utilize?
Definitely equity funds.
Yes, but do you
have for those long-term investments?
Do you use like 401k or do you trade on your own? Do you have a financial guy? Like, what are, like, because I personally, for also the stage, like, I have a 401k set up through PNC Bank, and majority of I like invest in a lot or my portfolio is like more domestic stock, the S&P 500 and things like that. I like my strategies. I like low risk, low reward, but I just want I want to take advantage of the compound interest over the 40 years. So when you retire, you have a fat chunk of change.
Yeah. So my wife, she has a 401k, and I think they match 5%. So if you work with a company that matches, I might as well hit that match. Now for myself, I'm self-employed, I just have my app, and I trade on myself. I research before I invest any of the money. I haven't been super successful with that, but I haven't lost money. So.
Yeah, Nick, I like that you brought up matching, because that's something that my company does as well. I can match up to 4% with my 401k, and that's majority of what I would say my investing strategy is. Of course, John and my dad also works in the banking industry, set us up with a nice Merrill Lynch account, and we just have domestic stocks there. And I'm just kind of letting that simmer, just so I don't get hit with those capital gain taxes once I pull it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at PNC we have the 4% match as well, and I think that is kind of goes like the good rule of thumb is as early as you start working, if you save and invest 10 cents of every dollar, you will be able to retire at 65. I know people getting crazy right now with like inflationary numbers and things like that, but that still holds true because inflation was skyrocketing in 1970, but you can see a lot of old people still retiring now. If you it still fits. If you follow the rules of the game, you should still retire at 65. You guys agree, disagree with that?
Oh no, yeah, I agree. So after every single deal, I put away some money for taxes, and I put away some money for my future and future investments. If it's going to be in the stocks or in real estate, and then I put some money aside for future marketing as well for new business. So always 10 cents on the dollar is pretty good. That's around what I do.
Because what my strategy right now is, I have a separate savings account that's not like my everyday checking and savings like that I use for Navy Federal. It's a completely different financial institution, and I have direct deposited 10% of 10% of my paycheck gets direct deposit in there. That's like my savings of like if my car like takes a dump, or like I have a flat tire, or my apartment floods out and there's water up to my knee and I need to move out that week. I have money there, as well as since it matches up to six, up not up to six, since PNC matches up to 4, I have 6% going to my 401k, so I'm at the 10% mark. That is my personal strategy that I utilize currently. Matthew, do you have anything similar to that, or do you just put whatever you into your 401k?
Yeah, so obviously the 401k matching, and then I like to take $500 of my second paycheck every month, put it in my savings account, just hold on to it, just so that way have that rainy day fund if need be. But I want to go back to your comment about retiring at 65. I think what's going on, a lot of people of our generation, they're getting nervous with the inflation rates and seeing where things are going. They're like, I'm not going to be able to retire by 65. I can't buy a house by 30. Type of thing. And I personally don't think I want to be retired by 65. I want to find that profession that I love doing for the rest of my life. And ultimately, when I hit, too old to move a golf cage around, or a lacrosse cage around, I'd like to, start working at a golf course, just get free golf and hang out and stuff like that. Always be working, because I just don't want to be sitting at home doing nothing.
Yeah, I think
ahead.
you always need purpose in life. And if you want to retire, but then you retire, but you have no purpose, what's the point of retiring? So I think you got to retire, but also have a purpose.
Yeah, I completely agree. But Matthew, I don't think like working at a golf course, you're still retired, because me and Matthew, background on us, we both worked at Cantini, had a great experience there. I can both attest that we had a great experience there. Shout out the boys at Cantini, Pete and John Heinlein. Those guys were the best. But like, I think you're retired. Like you work at, like, they worked 1 day a week in the winter. Some of them didn't even work in the winter. They were just there in the summertime for free golf. Like for me, that's just like negating expense for your golf habit. I'm looking at like, because I completely agree. Like I don't ever see myself retired of like, I wake up, I watch morning television, I might go for a watch, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I can never, I don't think anyone here, if you listen to this podcast, I don't think you're that guy. Like I think everyone wants to work until they can't walk anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I still think even with inflation and everything, you should still be able, if you save and invest 10 cents of every dollar, you will retire at 65. Not should, you will retire at 65.
You can work those 2 days a week if you want, and then play golf.
That's like the dream. Like you work like Wednesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then you play golf on like Monday mornings for free and whatever you can.
And hey, if you want to take a day off, go fishing, you can do that.
Yeah.
You just gotta save 10 cents on the dollar.
Yes. So to break into like more like specific things, like you besides your IRAs, do you have anything other than like any other investment products?
Saving up for some real estate.
Okay. Matthew, do you have anything, like, I'm talking about a CD, high interest money markets, or anything like that?
So I'm actually looking into graphene companies. If you guys don't know anything about graphene, it's basically graphite at its most basic layer. Basically, it's the future of all technologies can be based off of graphene once we finally figure out how to mass produce it. It's going to be in every single one of our computers, phones. It's tougher than Kevlar. We're going to make cars out of it. So I'm basically looking at a couple of different companies that can mass produce that, because as soon as it does, we're having a huge technological boom. And I think that's definitely the place that we should be looking at scientifically.
Well, shout out to all the listeners. That's a little free tip there from the boy Matthew. But so is that just like a type of stock, or is that like a an industry that you're investing in? How do you how do you legitimately invest in graphite? I've never heard of this before.
Yeah, so it's an industry. It's basically like if you trade in water, it's a commodity. There's only a select few companies that do actually trade on the S&P 500 and on the New York Stock Exchange. So I'm looking at a couple different ones. I think the top one, if you look up on Google, it's called Graphene Unlimited. But it's a very underknown thing. The only way you can create it now is with a particle accelerator. Um, but they're definitely working through it. I know the Nobel Prize was just given, I believe, 2 years ago for the person who discovered it. It's fairly new. It's definitely not something I would recommend that you invest in if you want your money back now. But it's definitely something that's going to change our lives the next 25 years.
A little bit higher stakes, but if it works out, it's going to be good. It's going to be well in your favor.
I like that, Matthew. If you'd like to do a future episode, like we can do like a deep dive on it. If you'd like to do in the future of that, because I've never heard of it. Because what I was like, kind of in the vein of like for the lay person out there, say you have $500 to $1,000, even if you don't even have that, like say you have like $50 to invest in. These are some things that some products out there. If they don't know. So like there's something called a CD. It's called a certificate of deposit. And they were very popular now. As I work at PNC Bank, there is, if you have $1,000, I would recommend this. If you have $1,000 to spend or $1,000 of cash laying around and you're just sitting in your checking account, and because if it's in your checking or savings account, you're probably getting between like no interest on it whatsoever. And there is some good rates out there. I know at PNC right now, we have like 7-month CDs, minimum to open $1,000, and it's I believe it's above 3%. I can say that for a fact. So, and for the lay person out there who doesn't know what a CD, it stands for certificate of deposit. So basically, it's a contract you go with a bank and saying, I'm going to give you X amount of money, and I'm not allowed to withdraw it from your bank for X amount of time, and you give me X amount of interest, which can be a very good thing, especially with now that rates are getting higher and higher. Of if you have $1,000 and and since it's backed by the United States government, if you give them $1,000 for 7 months, you can get a return of 4% on your investment. And you can say it depends up to it's kind of up to the person. Of some people say 4% is nothing, some people say that's good. I think if you are new to investing or to finance in any sense, getting a good win on the board is ideal. Especially if you don't like me and Matthew, like I know I bought my first stock in the 7th grade when we started caddying. So like not very many people have like a lengthy investing history. So I think it's like a good financial product to get your foot in the water.
Yeah, I would say CDs is a must. You have to at least know what they are and have multiple of them and have your money in CDs. If you have a lot of liquid cash, because at a good inflation rate is 2%, and if your money just sitting in there not doing anything, you're losing money. But if you get a CD at a 3% rate, you're over that year you're going to be earning 1%.
Yes, and that's a good point that you brought up, Nick. Not very many people understand the power of inflation and how it really cripples the middle and lower class.
If you have your rainy day cash and you have a lot of liquid cash just sitting in your bank account, you're not earning money. You're losing money each year or each day really on that money that you don't have that money kind of working for you. So a CD is an incredibly safe and easy way to do. All you do is just go to your bank and say, hey, I want to open up a CD, and just make sure that the CD is at least the same or higher than the projected inflation rate, and you're going to be earning money. If you just leave it in your bank account, you're 100% guaranteed that money is going to be that you're going to lose money on that money just sitting there.
And to explain, like when Nick says lose money, it's not if you have $100 in your bank account, inflation, you have $99. It's more of, think about it in the olden times, like in 1950, a Coca-Cola was 5 cents. Now it's like almost $3, or it's like $2.75. So say if you had $100 in 1950 and you put it into a savings account and then you never touched it from 1950 to 2023, in theory you would lose money because now you cannot, that your purchasing power has decreased. And that's kind of like the
Exactly.
foundation of finance, and kind of why this podcast is here, just giving people tips and tricks of one, because we're all under, Nick, are you 26 yet?
Yeah, 20. Yeah.
Yeah, you're old, man. So we're all under 30. So we're all fairly young in our careers and starting out. So like anything, like we're in that stage of learning, experimenting, making mistakes, and getting things done. And that's why I do think a CD is, at our stage, a powerful, at any stage.
At any stage.
Yeah. Because
At any
especially
stage that you have a lot of cash and you know you're not going to be spending it within a year, or maybe even 2 years or 5 years, put it in a CD so you don't lose money. So you're at least staying even with inflation, or you're being above it. And then then I have a lot of money in ETFs. I invest in a lot of ETFs because you do get some return. And then it also has a pretty good, they typically have a pretty good, they usually go up with inflation as well, but not as safe, not as well as CDs.
Yeah, so like an ETF, I would say ETFs as well as like mutual funds, they're all kind of in the same style of investment product, of where you get a group of stocks. So basically, it's one of the most safest ways to invest in the stock market. I would say, I think that's just common knowledge of basically group of stocks, say like all blue chip stocks. And instead of paying, like, because I think Apple right now is above $100, Disney's above $100, like all like the like Apple, like all Microsoft, all those things are above $100. So if you don't want to have $100, or two, you want to diversify your portfolio immediately, you can buy a mutual fund or a ETF, because what it is a collection of stocks, and then you buy a percentage of it with your money. So with like $1, you can buy an ETF, and with that dollar, you could buy a percentage of Disney, Apple, Nike, Under, all those great blue chip stocks. Are you going to own a large percent of it? No, you're not going to be able to sit in no board meetings, but your portfolio will be diversified, and is also very safe, because it basically just tracks the market. And since the type of financial system we have is the market capitalism, and it is all based on exponential growth, in theory, if you buy it and hold, it will never lose money, because it just follows the market for we're under the basement of exponential growth market, so then in theory, it will never go down.
Yeah. For my long-term investments, if I don't have a lot of cash in hand, but I want to invest it, ETFs are the way to go. If you want to play on the safe side, ETFs is safe, but you can also do a CD.
Yes, I would say ETFs probably do offer a larger rate of return over time, because like
over a longer period of time than a CD.
Because when you buy those financial products, you're not going to buy, so like for CDs, I've only been banking for a year, but I've never opened up for a CD for someone over 12 months. When you buy a mutual fund or an ETF, you plan on buying and holding that for probably 30 years. Like there's people who buy them and then just never sell them, because it doesn't always go up. Like it follows the market. In theory, it follows the market. So a lot of people just never get rid of them until it's time for them to retire.
And then if you have enough, like I would say, I think you can buy enough ETFs that you can actually get a return on them as well. You can get, they pay every 3 months, you might get 0.05 cents or something like that. But a lot of people have enough of them that it gives them a little bit of money.
Yeah,
every 3 months, quarterly, or whatever.
That'd be called a dividend, and that's another great type of safe long-term type of stock to buy. of what a dividend is for someone who does not know is that's just so stock A is $100, and there's certain type of things where when that company or company A's stock is worth $100, and what a lot of companies do, or not a lot of companies, certain companies give a percentage of profits back to their shareholders, and that's called a dividend, and it's a percentage. So say it's a 2% of the value of the stock, so just called 2%. So if you have $100 worth of stock, it could be quarterly, bi-quarterly, or yearly. So if it's a quarterly stock, and it's 2%, if you own $100 in that share, it's a 2% dividend. Well, then every quarter, so 4 times 0, you're going to get 2%.
Yeah, and all that information will be on whatever kind of app you use to invest in your stocks. You can look; it's super easy. So anyone can find that information out.
Do you guys want to talk about diversification? Because John, you brought it up, and to someone like myself who's not very involved in the investment world, it makes a lot of sense as someone like me to say, "Hey, Apple is going up 10% every year." Just throwing numbers out there. Why don't I just put all my money in Apple stock? What is the importance of diversifying into something like an ETF or a CD?
Well, it's just very I would say how they work is you have to consistently and regularly invest into them. So I wouldn't recommend for someone to diversify. Like, say you own a restaurant, I would never tell someone diversify your portfolio. Like, your bread and butter is your restaurant, so every surplus dollar I would invest into making your restaurant better. If that's like getting a better, upgrading your chef, or getting that new bottle of tequila that everyone's asking for, or repainting the walls, that is what I'd recommend. That, like, so if for someone like me, like for people in corporate America, where your primary investment strategy is probably your single family home and your 401k, why diversification is so important is because you're not really an expert at anything except for your job. Like, maybe, like, I bet you people better experts in fantasy football than they are in the stock market. I bet you the average American knows more about fantasy football than what an ETF is. So why diversification is, like, why a mutual fund or a dividend or an ETF is valuable is it basically just takes the guesswork out of it. Of everyone kind of knows that we're in a capitalist society. Everyone knows that we're kind of on like exponential growth. Our system is based on exponential growth. So, if you buy one of those safe financial products, you're going to get a return on your investment between 8 and 12%. And off the 8 or 12% over 40 years, you will be able to retire.
And talking about your example with Apple, if you invest all your money into Apple and Apple goes down, your whole portfolio goes down. What you want is your portfolio to go up each day. You want to see green. You don't want to see red. So if you invest all your money in just one stock and it goes red, your whole portfolio is going to go red. But if you have some in Apple, some in Microsoft, maybe some in Disney, you have a handful of different ETFs. And one of them goes down a little bit, but the rest goes up, your portfolio is going to go up.
Yes. And like, Nick, I don't want to get too in the weeds with you, but one of the great advantages of buying a mutual fund or an ETF is I personally do not care.
It's hands off.
Down. I truly do not care, because when you buy these financial products, you only care if it goes down when you're old. So, like, legitimately, if you don't sell it, you can't lose any money because it's your initial investment. So truly, I do not care at all if it goes up or down. It kind of takes, I might say, the risk out of it. But like, if I put all my money into Apple and Tim Cook decides to do blow and drive his car off a cliff into the San Francisco Bay, and the stock takes a dump, well, then now you're completely screwed, because you have no idea like what's going on, because you're tied up to one thing. With the ETF and the mutual funds, say Apple, for example, say Tim Cook does a bunch of blow and drives San Francisco Bay. That doesn't really matter to the ETF, because you have all the other stocks surrounding it too, so it builds up your portfolio. And
so it basically diversifies for you by buying an ETF as opposed to just buying individual stocks.
Yes, and it's very safe. On average, they return between 8 and 12%. So that's what people. That's the industry standard for retirement. So it's a very
Yeah, that's why I'm a huge fan of the ETF.
I would say it's the bread and butter of the financial industry.
Exactly.
Because not everyone's out there. Like I know there's Danny day trades out there, and like everyone thinks they're the next Al Capone or the Wolf of Wall Street. But majority of investors just buy the mutual funds, the dividend funds, which I'm one of those cats as well. So I think that was a pretty good talk. Nick, do you have anything else to add? Matthew, have anything else to add? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Once in a
You guys
while,
have
buy
anything
an
else to add?
individual stock.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say never buy a
No,
stock.
that's
Like
good.
Matthew was talking about the graphite thing. Like if you have faith in it and you look into it, and Matthew was like naming off facts. Like if you have a passion project, then do what you need to do. We're just giving people just like options here. Like I would never sit here and tell someone how to spend their money.
Like EVs, a lot of people said don't invest in EVs. A lot of people said do invest in EVs, and people who invest in EVs kind of worked out for them.
Yeah, no, like I said, there's a plethora of different things you could invest in, like real estate, EVs. Like there's a multitude of different things. I think these are just probably the safest options. Okay. Well, if that's all, Matthew, where can the people find you? Shout out your socials.
Hey, yeah. So, outside of my lacrosse company, I also like to be involved with YouTube and Instagram, and I'm trying to get a gaming channel off the ground. So, if you look up The Original MC on YouTube or Instagram, you can see weekly updates of what I'm posting. If you're interested in that kind of thing, you can find me there.
Awesome. Nick, where can the people find you? You kind of came in broken unreadable. Can you repeat yourself?
Yeah. Kelly Realty Group on Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. And then you please go follow the pod at real_podcast on Instagram.
In Houston.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Matthew. And you guys have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.